Hello, everyone, and welcome to another UniVirtual Experience. I hope you are loving this world. Keely built this world, and she is debuting it today, and we are so excited for this panel discussion. Just before we get started, though, I would like to acknowledge and thank our sponsors. An event like this does not happen without sponsors, and we are so grateful. HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education are our Infinity sponsors. They just released a new edition of the HP Reverb G2 that is perfectly designed for higher ed with pulse and eye monitoring and testing and other innovations excellent for precision controls, research, and development. Check out the articles on the website, Educators in VR website. You'll find it at educatorsinvr.com. Or you can head to HP's website, hp.com. Check out HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education to learn more. We also have Galaxy sponsors for this conference, which is a partnership between Educators in VR and Virtual World Society. Our Galaxy sponsors are Engage VR and Avantis, and they are literally changing education in the VR and XR space. So without further ado, Keely, I'm going to pass it over to you. We're all so excited about this discussion. We've been waiting for it. So I'm going to pass it to you.
Thank you, Donna. Yes, and let's give a hand and emojis for Donna for being an amazing event coordinator and her awesome Let's Meet in VR initiative. I love it so much. So yay! Hearts for Donna. So hello, everyone. My name is Keely Canniff. I am the team leader for the virtual schooling group here under Educators in VR, and I have my team member here, Dragoness, as well, and these lovely panelists that will shortly introduce themselves. And we're part of the virtual schooling group here that is initiative to promote virtual schooling, whether that be homeschooling or even virtual schooling through the pandemic, and finding ways to help educators and students learn through the comfort of their environment of their choosing. So yeah, I'm just really excited about that. And please hop on over to the Educators in VR Discord and go to the virtual schooling channel if you want to connect and stay in touch and keep up to date with all the events that's going on. Before we really kick off the panel, I kind of want to acknowledge the space that we're in. I try to do that even in real life, but you know, especially in virtual reality too, because sometimes they mix into one reality, right? This is a space that I created kind of at the beginning of the year, and it's called the Seasons of Life. And I love creating virtual spaces. For me, it's like painting. So instead of happy little trees, I say it's happy little polygons. And I created this space because we're all going through seasons in our lives, right? And I know a lot of times people think seasons as in spring and fall and the normal weather seasons, but there's also ups and downs that we go through in our life. And I want to show that at the end of the season, we can all come together on stage like this and share our experience and feel connected. And I think that's what a lot of the spirit of the UniVirtual conference is about, is this connection and meeting together. So yeah, thank you for hearing the story behind the space. And at the end of the event, I encourage you to check it out because you can have some fun exploring and meeting all the animals and creatures and finding out where they live and enjoying their company. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off and let Dragoness do a little self-introduction, and then we can continue down onto the panel today about homeschooling and virtual schooling in the pandemic. So yeah, you want to kick it off, Dragoness? Sure, you're on Amplify.
Oh, sorry, I got muted somehow.
That's okay.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Dragoness here in ALTSPACE, and I'm also a homeschooling mom in real life. I have a high school student, or well, we're just getting into that. So, but we've been homeschooling since the 2nd grade, and we did public school before that. And we have some learning cooperatives that we participate in. Yeah, so Keely and I have been joining up, and we're joined by these lovely ladies here, and I'll let Captain Digits take it next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cass Coomber, and I teach middle school, actually, in San Diego at pretty traditional middle school. Although my classroom, I have a VR headset in it, or actually several of them. Oh, even before COVID, kids would use a lot of VR in the classroom, and there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. And then during pandemic or during the quarantine distance teaching, I did several lessons for my kids. Through Zoom, of course, but then several lessons in VR, either with kids or asynchronously, where I would just use it to do fun stuff, sort of thing. So I did a VR today, and I love the space.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Awesome.
Popcorn Caitlin.
All right. Thanks, Cass. I'm Caitlin Krause. I am a VR lover. I feel like I'm here in Wonderland right now. I teach about digital well-being at Stanford, and I started a company called MindWise back 5 years ago. I work with mindfulness and design and storytelling, and I am the business director and community development director at Virtual World Society. I need to access the tools to make myself megaphoned. I don't know if I have that ability. Let me see. No, I don't know. I need
Under
some help
host
here.
tools to your right, down at the right,
Yeah.
you'll see host tools. If you open that up, you'll see amplify my voice about the fourth little circle down.
Yeah, it's
Does that
usually
help?
there. It's usually there under my host tools, but it's not there today. So let me see.
Well,
Yeah.
VR lady, what do we usually say at events?
Oh, now
Okay,
it's.
so
I got
it's
it.
not a true VR event unless you have a technical
Woohoo!
difficulty.
Way
Woohoo!
back here.
I think it's already on though. I believe that the coordinators helped with this. Yeah, most times I am host. So hello. So Caitlin Krause, MindWise, and founder 5 years ago, director of community and business development at Virtual World Society. I teach about digital well-being and talk about it all the time. And I'm a researcher and a collaborator, and really excited about bridging worlds with a lot of biofeedback and haptics right now. And I really, I should add, I taught middle school and high school for over 10 years and have lived all over the world. So I really love that international kind of flair. And I have the pleasure of passing the mic to my friend and colleague, Dr. Angelina Dayton.
Hi, and I'm also known as the VR lady on most platforms. That name was given to me by the students that I teach. I have put over 15,000 students into headsets, students, administrators, teachers, the lady that does my hair, the lady at the bank, 2 people I met on an airplane. And so I am also a longtime K-12 educator, higher ed educator, and administrator also. I have 7 children of my own who have homeschooled at various times. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old homeschooling right now. And I am the Senior Virtual Reality Research Scientist for the Virtual World Society. Happy to be here. Love Keely and all of my other panelists that are up on stage with me, and excited about this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's amazing to hear all the different backgrounds today from the panelists and see where they come from. And again, coming together on stage and bringing that experience together. And I'm excited a lot for today because there's a background of mixture of public school, homeschooling, and even wonder. And I think all of those really come together and it makes a beautiful ecosystem for us to learn in. So kicking that off, I know a lot of news in the world have been talking about the return to school in the fall and people getting vaccinated and being hopefully safe to do so. But, I've been thinking, what about parents who might want to continue this maybe hybrid approach or maybe a completely, homeschooling in style because maybe that's what fit for them for their environment. Do you have any tips or advice to parents who want to commit to that homeschooling lifestyle?
Yeah, I do, especially for parents who are in the elementary school years. So a lot of areas have programs that are exactly what you said. They're a hybrid of homeschool and public school. So you have some days at home, and then you have, depending on the program, 1 to 3 days of free public school funded, group activities. They do science labs, they do arts, they do math, all the subjects that sometimes people are intimidated to work on at home. Um, and So yeah, we really enjoyed the elementary school program that we did here. We've kind of broken away from that, and we have a smaller group of a wider range of aged individuals that we do stuff with now. Um, but yeah, especially for the elementary school age group, I would recommend that highly. And You can ask me later, I guess, if you want ideas of where to find that. But also, if you just search it on the internet, that's how we found our group. So
Yeah, I want to say, the whole distance learning thing has actually been kind of, in some ways there's some opportunities in it. And my school that I teach at, I know that next year we're offering a distance learning option, at least at the start of the year, and presumably the entire year. I'm expecting next year I'll have, the majority of my middle schoolers in person. Some section of them, just still attending. We we have these I want to say cams or GoPros in each classroom, so you can basically zoom in and move around. So I think that assume for forever, honestly, there's going to be a distance learning option available, because certainly a lot of schools I know are offering it to some degree in different amounts.
Yeah, if we're moving down the line, I feel like this is close to my heart. And well, to put it, I guess we distinguish a lot between parents and kids, and maybe that's because of accessibility. But my students, whether they're in university age, I think a lot of us are in the role of being learners and maybe also mentors to other people, whether they're our children, our families learning together. I feel like what the challenges of recent times have brought are more of a lateral approach to learning. And I keep thinking back to Greek times and how people learned and how people explored. And certainly there was some formal education, but what about learning in the home? And what about going outside and, blending some type of, I don't know, nature connection, like here in this space, with some augmented virtual reality gaming settings. I have to say, I love, Cass, I know people must bring up HalfLife a lot, but I love the way that you turned a game into a learning experience and gave people a hands-on way to kind of, I don't know, author their way of approaching it. So for me, I'm always looking at, well, what are the tools around me? How can I play with them? And how can I turn learning into games and games into learning? And I think that parents and students and their kids probably have a better relationship because of having to work through those creative constraints. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity, and there still is. We're probably never going to go back to whatever we thought normal was before. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Before we kick it off to Angelina, I just want to touch back of what Caitlin was saying about Cass's HalfLife, Alex, I believe, video. If you want to talk about that, Cass, real quick, because I think it's so neat and so cool.
Yeah,
And then we'll give
you
Angelina.
are all VR people, so I assume many of you saw a viral video last, oh my gosh, forever ago, last March. It was
Yeah.
that was me. And, that was one I didn't get at least lessons, but I actually did several lessons in VR last year. But that one was one of the first ones I did. And it was all, and one of the fun parts of teaching throughout this quarantine was kind of, because nothing was necessarily made. Now I've discovered, I guess, ALTSPACEVR and nothing was really made for, maybe I was up for education. It was really fun to experiment and explore, and then basically, like you said, try to figure out which game is educational or used that way, and then kind of find the there.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
the issues.
Thanks for sharing that. So, VR lady, do you want to touch point what we're talking about any advice to continuing the homeschooling, the virtual schooling?
Yeah. I think Cass is right on. I like to say that every time you interact with a digital or a virtual platform, you're learning. So all apps are learning apps. And so, and then to build upon what Caitlin said, actually, it's only been recently, within the last 200 years, that we didn't learn through play and in our homes and in our communities, both inside and outside of. Back then, the up and coming digital, I mean, the up and coming medium was books, and that was like a really cool thing to have around. I remember getting my first encyclopedia set, but especially before industrialized society introduced what I like to call incarceral schooling. It was a lot more fun to just go out and kind of learn. And so what I find is I drop this statistic a lot. My friend Doug Huhulan from Nokia says by 2022 there will be 8 billion people using XR technology. And so we will be transitioning from being digital natives to virtual natives. And so nothing will ever be the same because our students will reject 2D screens and Zoom because we've tortured them with it for the last year, and they'll start to explore ways of learning. They did not lose any time. They learned how to use their devices even better because they weren't sitting at a desk looking down at a book, and they began to create a lot more content that I know Cass did and went viral and was very entertaining, and all the rest of us got to watch. And there is, I heard a statistic that I'm not sure is true, but if we all repeat it and act like it is, then it becomes a fact. That's how the internet works now, that we spend 1 billion hours creating social media every day as a group, 1 billion hours as a world. And so there's a lot of material being created out there. And so learning happens by creation now, like what Keely does. And so homeschooling is a great way. And I'll only end by saying my son is 15 years old and he doesn't have an 8-hour workday. He works with people all around the world in collaborative learning experiences, self-organizing learning experiences, creating virtual environments just like this one, and learns mathematics that way, and history and science and you name it. And so they will teach themselves if we get out of their way. And so I think he's really enjoying his homeschooling experience because they say, oh, you homeschool, you never have to go to school. And my son goes, dude, I'm in school all the time. Never stops
so
learning.
Yes, I was homeschooled, and every waking hour was school, going on summer vacation. So I definitely feel that, and I love it. Yeah, thanks for sharing with that. I'm actually curious from the audience if you're either a student or an educator, or know someone who's an educator who might be thinking about taking that leap of faith and switching to a virtual schooling environment, or maybe a hybrid. Maybe show of emojis, some hearts. Like who kind of likes this mixture of learning from home and then maybe going and meeting up for some social interaction. Yeah, we got some emojis. I love it. Yes, I think what Caitlin, I believe you're saying about what was the normal and now there's a new normal is very true. And I also want to kind of jump on to what you were saying, VR Lady, about this content creation and really putting it into the hands of the students for them to play and learn. And I completely 100% agree with that. But there's like a part of me that's concerned about accessibility to either the devices, equipment, or internet. So I guess you can start off with Dragoness and then walk down the line like we did last time. If you have any comments on accessibility barriers, and then maybe some solutions, maybe some workarounds that you could share with the audience today.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Keely. So for accessibility, when sometimes with the schools, people have been working with their computers, and so it's really nice. Like you see, I'm here and I'm not talking with my hands because I'm actually here on my computer this morning. And so for people who can't get the headset, but if they have a computer, that's a nice option. And ALTSPACE has also been really vamping up their efforts for making it Mac friendly. I know we have at least one Mac person in the audience who maybe had some issues with this, the build on this world, but think it's been resolved. But yeah, so that's coming about. I know there's some people that have issues with the with the 3D, the VR as well, because of the discomfort of being in a headset. And so this is the way where we can really bring that interactivity, and connect to those people and still help with their personal needs. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely approve the cross-platform message. I think it's important that these platforms like Engage and AltSpace and Hubs and whatnot have that option to come in 2D, because I know some people too that they don't like the headset and they feel uncomfortable, but they still want to engage. So when I do educational workshops, any kind of events in VR, I try to make sure that it's as accessible as possible in many ways. So thanks for sharing that, Dragoness. Yeah. So Cass, you
Yeah,
wanna?
accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, accessibility is huge, and I mean, we see that with a lot of like students in my district and neighborhood, and it's like not every student, for example, has a decent computer, and not every, very few students have a VR headset, right? And I mean, more these days, I suppose, with Oculus 1 and 2 out. But it's also okay. So I agree that device agnosticism, like programs that work on many different devices, are huge. So I love any sort of VR program that also works on cell phones. I think that degree starts dealing with the equity part of it. Like, can we assume, by now many people do have access to smartphones. Do you think distance learning and homeschool and like these better hybrid programs, especially ones that can provide in my district, it's very typical for kids in hybrid programs where they do like they homeschool and one day in a group. We give like Chromebooks and some level of technology or like personal internet, I guess, from the district to the kids, and that helps a lot. But I think, broadly, this will start increasing accessibility to learning experiences when you start exploring things like VR and the different platforms on it. So, yeah.
So I feel like we're creating a sculpture as a group where we each get to create part of it, and these answers are awesome to build on because I feel like down the line, yes, accessibility and keeping both the. It's interesting because people from, let's say, people who have never had an experience in VR, they might think about it with like a person with a headset on from the outside. And we know the worlds that are possible on the inside once you put the headset on. So part of accessibility, I think, is increasing that literacy, that understanding of how devices can be used and how they can augment and not replace like a full set of learning experiences. So I think part of this is, there's a learning curve, and as price points go down, as access goes up, even as accessibility to, let's say, Wi-Fi and internet, this is necessary in a whole infrastructure way that I see partly changing through the way that people approach both devices themselves and also the whole system. It's like a social system. And the more we can play mentors and really make our stories visible to others and animate some student stories, I think it really increases awareness. So I think about Thomas Logan. He gave a talk at the UniVirtual panel. He's a friend of mine. And Thomas Logan has this equal entry program that talks about both the accessibility in terms of inclusion and also just understanding the way that, say, a virtual experience can fit into your lifestyle. So I will stop there, but there could be a whole day long set of talks about just this topic. Thanks.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I know you mentioned mentor and getting it out there, and VR Lady, you're famous for that.
Yeah.
I had to unmute myself. Sorry. Yeah, the ideas of accessibility and equity, especially in places where you see a lot of poverty. I like to think of VR headsets like an Uber. When I'm not using my car, somebody else should be using my car. So I have a set of headsets and I make sure that somebody's always in them. So I take them out to the community and I make sure that everybody gets a chance to get in them. The other part of that is I grew up very poor. So not every household in my community bought NFL ticket. One family bought it and then everybody went to that house and watched the games because that's how poor people do it. And so you can get very creative in your solutions. It says, I like to say poverty is the mother of invention more, rather than necessity, right? Poverty creates a lot of, there's a lot of dishes that I make in my home because they were the only things in the house growing up. And so we put them together and made them delicious. The other part of that I just wanted to touch upon is that I like to educate people so that they can make informed decisions within schools, within their own homes, and within their communities. Because in this emerging technology field, I'm going to say something kind of awful. There are a lot of grifters. There are people that dump crappy headsets on schools to make a buck off of them. And I like Best Buy, but I say Best Buy salesmen are not your friends. They're dumping secondary market garbage onto schools because they can. And so when you go in, to make decisions, it's important to find somebody that you trust so that, I've even seen large telecom companies give hotspots to rural communities where there's no cell phone signal, and most of those homes have a fiber network right in their front yard, but they're not connecting the fiber inside the house. It's poor decision making because it's not informed decision making. And what we can do is not buy a headset for every single person, because everybody doesn't need a headset. You can share headsets. What you need to do is inform your community so they make decisions that are the best for their students and for their children and for their families, because this new medium is going to be what we're going to be using soon. And if we don't inform them, then they can be taken advantage of. And that's really what I see as the biggest threat to access and equity right now.
Yeah,
Can I add really quickly? I 100% agree with that. I've met educators who are like burned by bad VR. Essentially, they're like, I'm like, you should try out, VR. Modern VR is amazing. And they're like, oh no, we had a small like VR program and it was terrible. I was like, what? What's up? You're describing some
like a cardboard that they spent $15,000 for because somebody took advantage of them. And so, I'm always available. Caitlin's always available. I'm sure everybody on the panel is always available. If you want some advice on making good decisions, it's great I tell people, get a network around you that can help you make good decisions that have your best interest in mind. I say a Best Buy salesman is a salesman.
Oh boy.
They're not called Best Buy best friends. Or they're called salesmen. So just
be clear,
always be.
They didn't sponsor us, right? We're not losing sponsorship.
No.
Right
No.
And
I'm a little reckless. I'm a little reckless about stuff like that. So thank you for keeping me, keeping me from putting my foot in my mouth. But when we talk about equity, we talk about our people who need to have the correct information, getting that information so that they make the best decisions possible. I think that's a big part of equity.
Yes, I love that. And I'm just going to do a plug for educators in VRs. Go on their Discord because that's a great way to start your network. I actually went there myself about a year ago now. I got some grant money to buy some headsets, and I went on there and I'm like, should I get this headset? Should I get the Go? Should I get this? And then I was told the Go was being sunsetted. And so I was like, oh, that's good to know. So hop over to educators in VR and explore and connect. All right, with that little plug finished. Let's take a little a fun pivot, Tony. We're talking about maybe staying in the virtual schooling environment, homeschooling, and accessibility. What about kind of, and I know Caitlin, you're kind of like waiting for this, really plugging in wonder and design, because I know we've been kind of teasing at about playing and learning and doing that for education. I absolutely love it. And as a kid who kind of grew up outside, I was told, we're not going to pay for all your fancy toys. I got some, but they were like, God made this earth and this planet, go climb a hill. And that was my wonder, was outside, which is, I like designing outside landscapes. But maybe if Dragoness, if you want to kick it off with some ways to plug in Wonder or some experiences you've had with Wonder and education in VR?
Well, I really love that she brought up outside. You know, one of the things that I run into a lot is, I see posts by parents and they have, you know, a first grader or a second grader, and they're looking for advice on how to make their child sit still in front of their computer and learn. And I'm just like, don't send them outside, you know?
That's child abuse. I consider that child abuse.
Right, right.
Yeah, to sit still in front of a computer.
Right, force them to go outside if you must force them to do stuff. Yeah, there's just, I mean, the world we live in is so amazing, I think, for any age. And that's just so important. And as they get older and start to learn the stuff that they find is interesting, you know, they have ideas of their own, and they're like, oh, well, you know, I wonder why this is this way. And so I think you just want to nurture that, and that's where the wonder is. The wonder happens naturally if we let it.
Yes, I love that. Stop trying to shape all the circles and squares to fit into the peg holes.
Right.
Yeah.
Get rid of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, VR is a naturally wonder-filled technology, as I'd say. There's almost no VR experience where just the immersion of it, even like, you know, relatively low polygon, although very nicely designed, pieces can still be just incredible. And I just think there's no better way to get, I mean, it's one of the top ways to get kids really hooked or make them curious about things that otherwise are really possibly difficult to get kids into, especially when you're like, look at the textbook, let's read about this event, instead of like being there and like being able to explore it ideally. And VR just, I could list so many different, there's like lots of good museum experiences where, you know, you go into the artwork, like it's like, it's literally like kids get to play the Magic School Bus for a bit. Like what a great way to, you know, inspire them. So VR is great for that.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow. So yeah, this question is like, wow. I do believe in learning beyond boundaries, and I've been thinking about that a lot because going into education and doing research, a lot of people that I have interviewed have said that they don't like four walls, like they don't like bounded spaces, whether it's you know, creating discrete subjects and never finding the links between them, or sitting at a desk, or being trapped in a box. It's like we want to get out of that limit. And one of the books that I wrote early on was Mindful by Design. I'd been researching mindfulness and design strategies to introduce mindfulness into curriculum in ways that was not separated. Because in my teaching, I was always using storytelling and design and mindfulness with students, and it wasn't saying let's make time for this on the side. It was saying let's bake it in. And then I realized there was a lot of connection between mindfulness and this ability to wonder. So I ended up writing a second book called Designing Wonder, that's really about the design strategies to incorporate elements of awareness, elements of also losing yourself and surfing wonder, liminal dream states, and really researching the brain and how we want to facilitate more experiences throughout the life that let us dream and collaborate and yeah, just kind of consider what if and not consider the limits. And it's kind of it's a mindfulness strategy to approach something that's like a challenge, and instead of saying can I do this, say, oh, how can I do this? And usually that comes from having that abundance kind of mindset where you just think about the opportunity in something as opposed to the constraints. So yeah, so and writing Designing Wonder was really about transformative experiences in VR specifically, but it ends up being a lot about the brain states and about how we can approach experience design with an emphasis on creativity and imagination and wonder. And that goes beyond, certainly it's true for little kids, but I think it's true also for all of us. We want spaces and places that give us a chance to wonder and dream. And essentially, I think it's what's separating us from robots, actually. You can make replicable processes in AI, and, you really can't replicate a human imagination and an ability to have wonder. So, yeah, I will pause there, but all kinds of ideas to play with. And if people are curious about wonder and designing wonder and all kinds of wonder-based experiences, please reach out to me. There's a lot more to build from here.
Yeah, I just love the ideas of wonder. I'm having the same thing you having, Caitlin, where my megaphone is on, but it doesn't come on right away. So just a glitch.
Yeah.
It's not a real VR event unless you have some technical difficulties.
It's a new ALTSPACE glitch. Yeah.
So
I feel you.
When we talk about getting children outside and playing, one of the things that happens when I go out into schools is people say things like, well, is it safe for them to put on a headset for 20 minutes? And I say, well, you've just pumped an amphetamine into this child and stuck them in a chair for 8 hours. Is that safe? Because basically they give these ADHD medications to little children and have them sit in a chair, which is probably the most unnatural thing for a 7-year-old to be doing for an extended period of time. And so anything a child does naturally is probably a lot healthier than what public schooling is forcing them to do. And I went to public school, and some of my children have spent different times in public school. Not everything about public school is bad. I'm just saying what children tend to. So my children who are homeschooled right now, they will be in VR as long as they want to be in VR, or online as long as they want to. And in between, they get up and do things like run outside barefoot and ride their bike and catch a butterfly, and then come back in and jump on their bed, and then do, I don't know, kid stuff that's not allowed usually in public schools. And so I always think, well, that's, if I allow them to be a child, they're going to tend towards child things. And I wouldn't keep a book away from a child, so I don't keep any kind of digital or virtual devices away from children. What I do is I'm a very good model of how to do things in moderation. And when I talk to parents who say, well, my kid would just spend all day online if I let them, I have to set some boundaries for them. I say, give me your phone. And then I look, and sure enough, that mom has spent 8 hours on Facebook that day, right? There's nothing like having a 2-year-old, and I've had 7 children, so this has happened to me 7 times, to have a mirror of every bad habit that I have reflected back on me. So I'm not saying I do it perfectly. I'm saying I know all these things because I also have horrible habits. And so what it does is it allows us, when we take charge of our children's learning again, to really reflect on the ways to better ourselves and to kind of grow and learn a little bit too. And then bestow those lessons upon our children, because I'm not static, they're not static, and so we grow together, we learn together, and in things like, and to echo what everybody says, in things like outside imagination play and inside your headset imagination play, there's a lot of opportunities to do a lot of exciting things. So those are my 2 cents.
I keep dancing during these answers. Like I've just been like dancing while people are.
Yeah, I'm just soaking it
so
in,
animated.
and like,
yeah,
the words that I'm getting is very like passionate growth and wonder in all realities. Like that's just the phrase that's kind of coming to me, and I'm loving this, and thank you all for sharing it. And experiences with wonders and learning by playing. And I know, Angelina, you've talked about this in the past, and Cass, we were kind of chatting about it, but there's a social aspect that kids really get when they go to school, or maybe to a charter school or something like that, that they can interact with other kids in regular reality and versus virtual reality. I'd love to hear your 2 cents on education with that and social, and how VR can play a role in it, or how maybe we should balance it so they're not always in the headset. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I mean, I think it depends on the child. One of my daughters, she's 18 and she's in her 3rd year of college, and she hated public school. She would just leave school in kindergarten and walk home. She says, I just don't like the social interaction there, Mom. There's this idea of equity. I'm in a group project. I have the right answers. The 3 other people have the wrong answer. I don't get the points. I'm trying to navigate this with these other students. And so, I mean, I think some people thrive in high school and some at public high school, and some people don't. And there's a lot of people that choose to give their children different experiences. I really want to do away with the myth that everybody has to go to public high school and meet state standards in order to be successful in life. And I think that stops a lot of parents from going out there and being a little creative and a little bit brave, because there are plenty of people that go to high school in Oklahoma and graduate and have no social or academic skill sets. There's not some like magic potion that they take when they go there. And so while being social is important, really understanding, like, there's some work environments I don't like, there's some social environments I don't like, and what is a good fit and match for your particular child, and know that unless they're locked in a closet, they will get the social interaction that they need, because we do, right? If it's in the playground or whatever, and not force them into a public schooling setting because you believe that that's the only way that they're ever going to be socialized. I don't know if that's true. I don't believe that it is. And so, but VR is definitely a place. My son has friends all around the world, and he socializes on Discord and on VR. He got his first girlfriend in VR. He got his first boyfriend in VR. I mean, he's a very eclectic child that experiences the whole world in a lot of different ways because he can. He creates the world that he lives in. That's what I say. He creates the world that he lives in. So,
I
Wow.
love that.
There's a big word that just is coming to me about expectations. And I think that the expectations are shifting, and people have new metrics for well-being, new metrics for what it means to be maybe quote unquote successful. And, you know, it's incredible at this time as depression rates rise, there's more anxiety, you know, there's more need to reframe what we have as expectation for relationship, and I think for the future for children who kind of learn from us modeling what do we see as a definition of their quote unquote success. Maybe it is. I mean, I feel very strongly about well-being and about the importance of giving both freedom and, you know, we haven't really mentioned the word love on this panel, but there's a lot of love, and I think that the more that we can go beyond the perceived boundaries, then our students and different ages start to see that there is a way to be more authentic and to find the friends that they're meant to find, maybe beyond local constraints. And that's what VR can provide.
So absolutely, I think there's a balance of academic and social skills that school or homeschool or charter schools or all the various choices can teach you. I think key part of us embracing VR or kind of, opening up this choice is that there is going to be no one size fits all for every family and for every kid. And that's why it's really exciting to see that both a more normalization, like it's more socially acceptable, but also I think it's more, even within each of those spaces, within hybrid programs, within even traditional schools, the VR or other opportunities like that. I don't know where I was going with this. It's really, I think we should embrace that. I think we should embrace the idea that there is no one size fits all, and that all those options are valid and can lead to success with the right kid and the right family. So.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Great point. You said you lost the thread, but I felt like you made a great point there.
I was there. Yeah, we were with you.
And it leads really well, I think, into what I've been thinking, which is that so much more than just for, school-aged kids and homeschool, like even for adults, the social aspect of our lives is so important. And you really see it here, like during the pandemic, with people getting their social needs met here in VR. And, it's so amazing. Like there's no age here in VR. And so you find yourself having awesome fun and interesting conversations with people from, ages 13 to some people in their 80s here, and you don't know, usually you don't even know how old they are, and it doesn't matter. And I just think that's so wonderful, and something that really adds to the value of the education, to be able to have such wide perspectives and opportunities.
Thank you.
My friend says
love that.
I love my friend says I love being in VR because everybody in VR is young and beautiful. And we are, right?
Right.
Yeah, I love
Someone
it. It
was
gives us
worried.
all a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody was worried the other day that their avatar didn't look right in AltSpace, like, oh, I didn't choose the right shirt. And I said, well, I'm actually just seeing you through your voice. Like, I feel like the voice is so powerful in VR for emotion, and for sometimes I think people could be wearing anything and I would just be riding the emotional waves of voice.
So you said wear anything. They can also be wearing nothing, and I'm going to tell you
Well,
a quick story.
that would be
I'm going to tell you a
distracting,
quick.
but yes.
I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I
Okay.
first started in online and virtual teaching and learning, I had made the joke that I had the type of job where I could just be butt naked and nobody would know. And when I
Oh,
went to
goodness.
my daughter's parent-teacher conference, we had been talking for a while, and I said, yeah, I teach online and in virtual reality. And she said, oh, thank God. And I said, what? And she goes, your daughter came to school and said you had a job that you do butt naked. And I had no idea what I was in store for by meeting you. And so while you can be wearing anything, pants or no pants right now, I'm just saying,
That's
if your
right.
children are going to go to school and talk, let them know that you keep your clothes on.
Exactly. Exactly right. This is the unscripted panel. I love it.
I love this.
Running
Yeah.
the vein
That's very true.
of VR and programs like it, giving you more freedom of choice and the ability to interact with people of all types, because it can be very equitable. Assuming you have access to it. I just want to say, like,
Mhm.
as someone who's trans, being able to be in VR was a big part of being able to express myself initially. So, there's a lot of peripheral. I'll say
Yeah,
too.
thanks for sharing.
And,
I was about to kind of touch on about how VR lets you express your inner self. That's what we see, your inner self. So yeah.
and as a mother of several LGBTQ children, what I have found is that I like them to explore within VR because it's safe. Where in real life, there's still a lot. I live in Oklahoma. And so there's a lot of dangers in being LGBTQ in an environment like this. And so when my son's online, I feel much safer than I do if he were to go out and be who he is in a space that's not tolerant. And so, I found when I've been in forums before that affords a safety to marginalized communities, and I really appreciate that. And a lot of us have zero tolerance for intolerance in our spaces, and that really makes it so much better for all of us, right? For all of us. And so
Oh yeah, the ability
I second
to block
again.
people is magic. We should bring that
Absolutely.
Yeah. The hands
Yeah.
up all the mods, wonderful mods we've been having throughout these events. So yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. I'd also like to just add the concept here in VR, we can lose ourselves. Like some people who have a lot of I don't know, maybe concerns, or feel like they're somehow limited by themselves. They could be a tree, they could be a cloud. Sometimes people, I love the quote, I am a transparent eyeball. Like sometimes I just lose myself completely and I forget about, like, oh, what is this sort of shell that I'm occupying. And I think it's really nice in VR to be able to have that sense of wonder where you suddenly kind of think beyond yourself.
Yeah, love this. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your wonderful comments and being here today. Let's give a hands up, or emojis up, I should say, for the panelists today here. Thank you. I could talk about this all day. I love this expression of self in VR and that whole dichotomy with school and like what you were saying, Angelina, about being safer in the virtual space. So that sounds like a great future topic. But I'm curious, we have a few minutes left. Any questions that you're just hankering to ask a panelist or just kind of want to bounce something off? I mean, if somebody could, yay, the magical raise hands button is there. Yeah. I'm in VR, so all the menus all over the place.
If you look down to your right, the raise hand, if you're new to this space, it's down to your right. And it'll say raise hand, and if you click on that, you can ask us questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping afterwards we can get a group photo of everybody. This is a great day,
That'd be
and I want to
awesome.
record it. Yeah.
And the background is awesome for a group photo.
Yeah, yeah, and if the lovely Donna could handle the questions, that'd be wonderful. ALTSPACE is messing up my menu in VR, so I'm gonna click the wrong button if I do it.
And I'm just getting my voice going here. Okay, I see a couple questions. Just let me get there. Okay, Shine, I'm going to amplify your voice. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi,
Can we hear?
like to say, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, great. I'd just like to say I've really enjoyed this, and I welcome the opportunity to attend more events like this. You can probably tell from my accent, I'm not American, I'm from the UK. I'm a home educating parent. We talk about home education rather than homeschooling. The connotations are slightly different. Yes, it's been really interesting, and I look forward to connecting on Discord and becoming more involved in all the exciting things that are going on.
Yes.
Thank you,
We're always
Shine.
looking for
Appreciate the
team
opportunity.
members, and yeah, lovely to be
Exciting
here
to
today.
have
Share
you
your
here.
energy.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Shine. Did you have a question, or was that just your comment?
Sorry, yes, it was a comment rather than a question. Oh, there is
that's
actually one point. Sorry, there was one little point. I absolutely love this environment. It's magical. Just wonder about anybody with sensorial challenges, if there might be an issue to position slightly differently or something.
I have a child with Asperger's syndrome and several friends also with Asperger's, and I know that I wouldn't bring them to this particular environment because of the waterfall sound becomes really overwhelming. And so, yeah, but in most environments, and with the headset on, my daughter likes it better because one, she doesn't have to maintain eye contact, and two, it allows her to focus. And so, but you're right, there are certain, for people with sensory sensitivities, that I usually try to pick places where I take them where there's not a secondary noise in the background.
Yeah, and it gives you
And
that
that's-
opportunity, doesn't it? That you don't have necessarily easily in real life. You've got the option.
Well, and
you.
I really like, they have a new feature they're working with, and it doesn't work for all the sounds, but it lets you be able to turn down things like background noise and music and have the voices be louder. And as someone who does have some audio processing issues, I really like it when that's an option where I can like just not have all that background noise and still hear the people talking. So yes, feel for you with your kids too.
Okay. I'm going to thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And we're going to go to Laurel next. Go ahead.
Thank you all so much for this amazing conversation. You've brought up one of my favorite topics, which is the having VR be a safe space. So I'm wondering that how do you have that conversation about what to do that leads up to blocking, that leads up to whatever, defending? How because that's hard to mirror when somebody's in their headset, they can't see what you are doing. But how do you have that conversation that puts cyberbullying into the perspective it needs to be in, because it is so amplified?
Wow. Laurel, this is such an amazing question, and I would say not just modeling but engaging. I think that it's a collective effort. So I know Howard Rheingold, he he has been a mentor of mine and teaches cooperation literacy. And I always start out in my communities with this idea of cooperative standards. So, engaging more members in talking about values, talking about ethics, what they would like to see, because I don't own the space. It's like the space is a collective. And the more people you have in your community that have cooperative beliefs and things that are very tangible and visible. Somebody coming in who might be new, sometimes people in here, the first time in VR, you're trying to find your way, so sometimes if someone's like too close to me the first time, I might assume, oh, maybe they don't know, or maybe they need some guidance. But eventually you start to see that it's a group that takes care of making those visible ways of being with each other so palpable, and people for the most part want to engage in that type of community. So then the disruptive people coming in, if that's something that's not conducive to your environment, then you stand up for that, and your group also stands up for that.
Okay.
Love that. All right. Well, it looks like we're at the top of the hour.
We have one more
thinking
question.
Oh, we have one
Can
more
we do
question.
that?
Okay, we'll
Oh,
take the one
boy.
more. Yeah, one more question.
Gingery, your very last question. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you all so much for this wonderful panel. I'm wondering, to what extent do you help your homeschool children with learning? So are you controlling anything they do learn? Do you help to choose apps and learning materials, helping with homework? I'm asking it because I believe that XR technologies help students to become more autonomous with their learning. What do you think about that?
I have a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. That's a great question, Gingery. And I think it really does help them develop autonomy, and it depends a lot on the child. So like especially younger children need more guidance. And then with older children, as they start to know what they want, you can kind of encourage them to come to you when they need guidance. And just, it's been so wonderful, like for me, watching my daughter learn how to learn on her own so that she's, yeah. So, and VR lady.
I was just going to give a sufficiently vague answer. I like to create an environment that makes learning exciting and make my children want to explore their world, and then I get out of their way. So I would not, that's not for everybody, I know, but my children often come to me with things that blow me away, and we have that journey kind of together. And there's no part of living that isn't learning. So it's wonderfully spectacular.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Awesome. And Caitlin, you had a message you want to share with everybody in this shared experience? Yeah.
Well, I think just on that note of taking care of community, like our community together here today, just that we keep in touch, because we already have, I think, something in common that brought us together. And as you said, there's educators in VR, there's Virtual World Society, which I know a lot of us are already part of, Angelina, myself, Keely, so there are a lot of this event just being part of bringing people together. It lets you stay together beyond, say, a panel. You can have even more dynamic conversations and keep growing that community that's going to strengthen all that you're looking to build and grow. So yes, yeah, definitely.
Check out
and
Virtual World Society.
Yeah, VWS. I think that's on the event page as well. So
yeah, thank you, and thank you, panelists, for being here today. I'm very appreciative of your time and your expertise, and I thank you, the audience, for being here and sharing your time and being connected here in the virtual space. If possible, can everybody come up? We can take a group photo.
Keely,
no,
Keely,
not
can
yet.
I just do the Keely? Can I just do the closing first? Do you mind?
Oh, sure.
Remember the
Yeah, go
video
ahead.
closing, and then we'll take the photo. We won't forget. So please don't leave while I'm doing this, okay? Because we really do want you in a group photo. So you guys, interesting panel, right? Let's just give them a round of applause. interesting conversation. So thank you so much to each of you. And we just want to acknowledge, just as we close out this event, acknowledge again that we can't do this without sponsors. The Educators of VR and Virtual World Society, their partnership with UniVirtual Experience last May 1st to the 30th. And the Infinity sponsor is HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education. And let's please give them a round of applause. They are really doing a lot in the education space and for this conference. The Galaxy sponsors are Engage VR and Avantis, and they are changing education in VR and XR. We also have stellar sponsors, and they include sponsors that you want to check out these websites as well. The first one is Grove XR. It's an educational learning platform at grove.us. Dr. Angelina Dayton, you guys all know her as a VR lady, and she has been our wonderful panelist today. She's the founder of Students in VR. There's Frame VR, which is a WebXR browser-based social, creative, and educational platform that you want to check out at framevr.io. And here's another one. It's called LearnBright. The website is learnbright.com, and it's another educational program and headset that makes learning in VR safe and exciting. We also have LBX Immersive and Waking Dream VR. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And last but never least, is a huge thank you to Tony Cube Studios. He is responsible and graciously putting together all of the scheduling and the taping, the filming of these events so that you can either rewatch one that you really enjoyed or you can watch one that you missed. Okay, so that brings us to the end. I want to thank you so much for coming. And we can end recording now. Thanks. Okay, yeah.
Thank
now we can do a
you.
photo.
Right.
Yeah.